There are a couple of teams in the NBA that are struggling right now, and the future doesn't look quite good for them either. On today's episode, I want to ask, which team is more cooked, the Pelicans or the Sacramento Kings? We're getting into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, Bulls fans? What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to talk about two teams that are quite frankly cooked. That is the Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans, and I want to start this one off with the Kings. The Kings, just a couple of years ago, were the light the beam team, a team that was a feel-good team in that Western Conference, making the playoffs, and it just is all come crashing down from that. De'Aaron Fox requesting a trade. Now the Kings sit in a spot right now where they have some talented players on their roster. They have a roster that doesn't quite fit together, and the Kings right now sit at 2-4 on the season. They did win their last game, though, so take a look at that. One of the reasons why I think the Sacramento Kings are definitely a cooked franchise where it stands right now is that you look at their players, they really don't have any tradable assets. Now, they do have Domantas Sabonis, who, make no mistake about it, is a very tradable asset, and one that I think the Kings are terrified that he would actually request a trade. Keegan Murray as well could be looked at as a tradable asset as well, but they're going to want to keep the guy they just re-signed as well for a young, promising part on their roster. But you look at somebody like Zach LaVine, who actually is on the tear this season to start off this season, but with his $47 million contract, and he has another year after the season with the player option, reportedly there are no teams that are interested in trading for Zach LaVine right now, which puts the Kings in a spot to where they can't even reportedly benefit off a player that has started off the season averaging over 30 points per game. They can't benefit off that because no team wants to take on the Zach LaVine contract. Zach LaVine has the reputation around the league of being a loser and being a player that does not contribute to winning. Now, you know, he did play for the Chicago Bulls. I have a bit of a different perspective on that. I think Zach LaVine has just never been in a winning situation, but make no mistake about it. Zach LaVine is a heavy isolation player that needs the ball in his hands to isolate and score and things like that, but has never been the type of player to be able to lead a team. You're going to need help there. The best season of Zach LaVine's career came when the Bulls added DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and then he even went down at part of that season, then finished the season injured. So it's just always been tons of questions around Zach LaVine. And then when you look at the Kings and where they sit both in salary cap and things, this is a team that right now is slightly below the first tax apron, which is good. It provides them a little bit of flexibility for sure. But then when you look at their draft picks, they have their own 2026 draft pick, which in this deep draft is really important. And they do have their own picks outright as well. Like the Kings, for what it's worth, own all their first round picks from now basically until 2031, right? They even have a San Antonio Spurs pick as well in 2027. That's 17. That has to fall between 17 and 30 for them to get it. It's top 16 protected. So, the Kings aren't necessarily in as bad of a situation with draft assets. If they are a bad team, they're going to get better draft picks because they own their own picks. And that could be why the Kings right now sit in a spot where they're kind of just letting it naturally go where they go. But make no mistake about it, if Domantas Sabonis requests a trade, the Kings' any hopes of winning anytime soon go with that, right? And, that's just the thing that I look at. Like, Keegan Murray is a fine player, make no mistake about it. There are going to be some that ask, is he's overpaid? Is he's going to be making over $25 million a year on that contract on average, right? Once that kicks in next season, it's already a guy that's losing part of his season this year. And then you look at it like they had to bring in Russell Westbrook to bring in and Dennis Schroeder to bring in some point guard play to this team. Dennis Schroeder is another guy that as well is on an over $14 million contract. So, like, and reportedly they had some interest in Jonathan Kuminga this offseason. Couldn't get a deal done with that, even with putting Malik Monk on the table. And so the Kings sit in this place where it doesn't seem like they want to blow it all up. Now, if they do blow it all up, great, right? Like, okay, it gives you more direction. It removes the capability, the focus on winning now. Could get you some assets if you move Sabonis and Malik Monk. These are both pieces that can help some other teams win now. And maybe you do that, right? But I think when it comes down to it, and even Maxime Reynaud, this is another player that I think is actually a pretty damn good player. But then you look at some of their other draft picks. What is Devin Carter as a player right now? Outside of one of the worst hairlines and hairstyles in the game of basketball, he doesn't have a whole lot, right? That for sure is going to be a marketable skill and asset for him. And thus, it raises some more questions on, again, what does that future look like for the Sacramento Kings? the Kings are in a spot right now that no team wants to be in. They're not even in the middle, right? Being mid in the NBA is already a death sentence for a lot of teams. But when it comes to the Sacramento Kings, they're not even in the middle of the pack. They have some aging veteran players that nobody really wants in DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. These are over 30-year-old players that, are still productive per the box score and what they're able to put up in the box score, but it really doesn't give you anything, right? And so the Sacramento Kings are a team that this season is going to be ugly for the Kings. And while there is some initial hope that with the right point guard, you can maybe find some things out, now with Zach LaVine going on the injury report, those type of things, right, that's happening with this team, it just leads to more questions around us and not knowing what they're going to have. And, that's a big question here with this team. And so as things stand right now, I tell you what, the Kings, I don't know where things are going to fall at with them right now. They have a full roster of 15 standard NBA contracts, right? Reportedly, they have some interest in Precious Achiuwa to come in here and add something to the team. That's great. But where are you really going to go if you're this Kings team? And that's where the question lies at. But the other team that I want to talk about is the New Orleans Pelicans. And as much as we can talk about the Kings being cooked, at least they own a lot of their first-round picks. The Pelicans made a draft day trade, giving up an unprotected pick in 2026. And initially, I had said, well, if Zion's healthy, and this team does, and the last time Zion was fully healthy, the team did make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs and get that pick out of the lottery, it's not bad as a pick to give up for a player in Derek Queen that you look at and you think, hey, he has some talent here, right? But then you look at this team and wonder where it stands. Like, you have Zion here, and that's one of the things that make this team so cooked. You have Zion. There are already Pelicans fans that are ready to turn on Joe Dumars, who just got there. Your 2026 pick in a deep draft is going to Atlanta regardless. It's unprotected. It's going there. Even your pick next year as well could be going to the Indiana Pacers, right? So you don't know what's going to happen there. There's a lot of different things that's going on with this team. Now, for what it's worth, after 2027, they own all their first-round picks outright. No question about that. And so if they need to do some of those things, they can. But this is a team that has talent on their roster. They have what most people would want, a young, talented roster, yet they're sitting winless on the season. A player in Zion who's only 25, and we should be talking about Zion being in his prime right now and what that means for what this Pelicans team could be. And instead, we're asking ourselves, is it going to be a chance that the Pelicans end up completely, voiding out his contract or trying to trade it, right? And then who's going to even take Zion Williamson's contract with everything that's going on right now, even with the caveat of you being able to get out of that contract every single summer? And there's tons of that's the thing here. DeJounte Murray, again, he's a player that's out. We don't know when he's going to be back. He's not going to be out back to after All-Star. This happened before the season even started. That's another player that could be a trade chip for you that could help some teams, but he can't stay healthy. Now, the thing with the Pelicans are they do have Trey Murphy III, a very promising player. They have Jeremiah Fears, a player that I do think can eventually turn into something in the NBA. They have Yves Missy, another player that I actually do like. But all this can't come together because this is still a franchise that's hoping that Zion Williamson is going to be able to step up. And for what it's worth, Zion's played 5 games for this team so far this season. He's averaging 22 points on 48% shooting from the field. Has taken no threes yet this season. 6 rebounds, 5 assists, basically. Like, we know when Zion, 2 steals. We know when Zion's healthy, he's going to fill the stat sheet. But the problem is that where does that get you? And that's where the question lies in with the Pelicans. No matter what happens, it feels like this Pelicans team just can't get their feet from underneath them, get their grounding underneath them and start making forward progress. They always seem like they are tripping into something. And so, like, they made one of the worst trades of the offseason. And now the Atlanta Hawks are sit there to benefit with Trae Young's pending situation. They could benefit and end up having a top 5, 10, whatever pick. They can end up having that without even needing to be a bad team. And the Pelicans gifted them that. It's so questionable what the Pelicans were thinking when they made that pick unprotected to move up to get Derek Queen, a player that I may add already has some questions on what the fit's going to look like with him and Zion if they even fit on the court together, which raises more questions about where this team direction. The Pelicans are a directionless team that right now have nothing that you can look at and say, this team clearly has a vision because of X, right? They don't have that. The thought was if Zion's able to be healthy, they can find that path, but Zion's only missed 1 game this season, and you still don't feel that. They are winless on the season right now. Now, it's early. It's 6 games. We've seen teams that look like they're going to be a top team that fall down. We've seen teams that look like they're a bottom team that end up figuring out their footing. But just in watching this team and how they play basketball and how things just seem to be a complete and utter mess out there in New Orleans, it doesn't have the feel of a team that's going to be able to turn it around. Now, luckily, if they do, we'll be able to cover it. We'll talk about it. We'll shoot the fair one on it. But with all the talent that they do have here, the Pelicans have to ask themselves this question. Is it worth a mini teardown or whatever that is to get the assets you can't get back, develop these young pieces without having a player like Zion around? And what does that then look like for this team? But then even with the promising pieces that they have, like I said, Jeremiah Fears is a guy that I'm very high on. He's averaging 13 points per game. He started 4 games for them so far this season, 1.5 steals. Like, this is a guy that I really do think is an NBA level talent and is going to be a good player in the NBA. You mix that with Trey Murphy III, you mix that with Herb Jones, and you could have something, Yves Missi still being there, right? You could have something that could provide a bit of a direction for that team. But the arbitrage of Zion Williamson and what he is and what he offers and looking at this team is just a player that is going to be making $39 million this year, $42 million next year, $44 million the year after that. And you just don't know if you can build around this guy. And so that's the thing that makes this question so hard around the Pelicans and why they are so cooked as it stands right now. So to get back to the question that I asked at the top of the show, which team is more cooked, the Pelicans or the Kings? And I would have to say, because of the nature of how bad they are and the fact that they don't own their own first-round pick, if this was a Kings team that was bad this season and owned their own first-round pick with a draft as deep as next year, you could have gotten a player that could have provided that direction for your franchise. And now it's just added more questions because you gave it up for a talented player in Derek Queen. But what is the fit going to look like there on top of Yves Missi already being there, on top of not being a fit with Zion Williamson? And that's the question that the Pelicans are going to have to ask themselves. And I don't know when Joe Dumars finds it. They laid out a challenge for Zion to be a better leader, and that has not been there. And so now questions around that franchise persist. We just don't know which way it's going to go. But you guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. Make sure you're following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.